Hey guys, it's Empress Ruth. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and viewing my channel. I am uploading another video. I was like on fire with the videos yesterday. I couldn't stop. And part of it is just this full moon energy. It started affecting me, I want to say on the 8th. It's been heavy where I've been out of it for a while, for a couple of weeks now. So I guess it's just, and it's the energy where you will feel sluggish. So, and it's not like I didn't need the rest, because I've been burning both ends of the candle like since summer, without really stopping. So, and it's winter time, it's hibernation time, and just time to rest and reassess. But what I want to come on today and talk about is judgment. And I was sitting today and I was just thinking about judgment and how people judge and how they look at a person automatically and make a judgment call based on what they see with their eyes and what they may know about the person. And I've always cared what people thought, but then again, I didn't try and live my life based on what people thought. I always have been an against the grain type of individual, not because I wanted to always just be a challenge. Just stuff just never made sense to me, even though, you know, this is the way it is, and this is what I'm telling you, and this is what we got to do. I got all that, but you know, when you put stuff together, like, well, why don't we do it like this? Because that will be much smarter. No, we can't do it like that because this is how they want us to do it. You know, and that's like a work situation. Like, that's just so stupid. And so just things just never made logical sense. Just in everyday life, I'm like, well, why do we do that? And why do we do that? So I always had questions. It's not that I was such a rebel, and I guess I was perceived as a rebel because of my aggressive way. I always kind of spoke my mind, and was always just a free talker, but I was also didn't have any social skills either. I did not have I didn't have good social skills or good communication skills, and I didn't realize I did not have good communication skills because me being such a heavy thinker, a lot of times I'll be in my head thinking about something, and there'll be people around me, and I'll be in my own world, and people will perceive that as she's ignoring me or she's being standoffish, and really I'm deep in my thoughts. And most people are not like that, like to the extent that I am, I should say. And so someone had to point that out to me, like, you know, when I first met you, I didn't like you. And, you know, she's like, you always had like this air about you. And then once I got to know you, like, man, she's so cool. She's such a nice person. But you would know that because of, I guess, what I gave off. And what I gave off was always strong. Because I always had, I don't know, it was always something just very different about me. And so, with that people misjudged me, and I misjudged people. And then I look at just their interactions, because you're making a judgment on a person based on what you know about your world and how you relate in your world and how you interact in your own world and your own experiences. And you may look at another person who may be look completely different from you, or they do things that you just like, you don't get. And if you don't get what they do, we go into judgment on a person. And it's so easy to judge what you don't understand. And what they say, don't judge a book by its cover. You never know what's inside the pages if you never open up the book. And that brings me, I was listening to music, and I was listening to music over the internet, and it was a new artist, because I always like to hear new music, because my ear is, I love music, just put it like that way. But anyway, I was listening to new music, and I was on my tablet as I was listening to the music, and I would pick up my phone to look to see who it was and what I was hearing. And then what I saw, I was not expecting. I guess kind of like that TV show, The Voice. The voice you hear, and then you turn around and you see who that's coming from. The picture that you have in your mind of who you hear singing, and then you actually see the person, like, that didn't match my image that I had in my mind of who was singing. That's judgment. It's that easy, and that's how easily we judge people. Because it was funny, I was listening to a song, and it was an artist, and it was a Spanish song, and it was so beautiful. And I picked it up, and it's this black man. I was like, judgment. We judge so quick off. And I'm going to use the news, because that's my favorite thing, the news, to use, because so many people rely on it, and they have that TV on all day 24/7, or they're on the internet 24/7, or people are always on. But just like with the news, they'll give a tagline of one word to a sentence that somebody said, and they make a whole story off a sentence. That's not even, and for yourself how, if you think about it, think about your past, or think about how somebody relayed a story and it kind of slandered you because people didn't have the full details, and you're pissed off. Everybody's experienced it. I know everyone has. And if you haven't, you heard of somebody who has. Like, that's not even what happened. So we're too quick to make judgments about people based on what we see, what we hear about them. Small tidbits. They've ruined people's entire lives over a small tidbit of information without anybody knowing, because they can direct the story whichever direction they want it to go. It's not always the truth. A lot of times it's a whole bunch of malarkey. But and then we also base we make judgment calls based on people, and what position of authority they're in, how much money they have. If we're not looking at people as people, we're looking at people with a title. And if it looks like they're not living the way you think they should, people judge and say, well, something's wrong with them, or why would they live like that? And I'm going to use myself as an example. I worked in corporate America for the majority of my life, and I always had a job, and I always had a nice car and clothes, and I was pretty fancy, and you couldn't tell me anything because I fit that image. I looked good. And so when I would go and I would see people who worked in restaurants, or they worked in low paying jobs or medial jobs, I looked at those people, not that they were less than, but I wouldn't really give them the time of day, or kind of snobbish almost, really, because walking right past those people as if they don't exist and they're people. And now me coming out of that environment, coming out of that world, and going through the awakening process, and really just looking at each individual as a person, as a divine being, no matter what their title is. Because really, the people that hold high position really are not what you think. But that's another conversation. But just to sit and, now I sit and I talk to everyone. When I'm out and about, whoever I strike up a conversation with is who I strike up a conversation with. I would never do that. I'll talk to anybody because I respect everyone as a divine being. And we're all connected. It's this guy that I see, this homeless guy on the expressway. I get off the expressway on the south side, and he's always at the same spot. He always got a smile on his face. He always saying hi, and no matter his circumstances, his spirit is still high. His soul is still beautiful. His heart has not been tarnished by his circumstances. He's still a beautiful individual. His circumstances are just what they are, and you don't know what his journey was in order for him to get there, or why he's there. And we make instant judgment. Crackhead, alcoholic, lush. That man wasn't none of that. But just seeing him and in his clothes, you would think that. But then every time I stop going in that direction and I see him, I always talk to him. He lights my soul up every time I talk to that man. Every time. And even talking to I stopped and I was talking to this real tall athlete. I was out in Crystal Lake, and we were just striking up a conversation. He was like, I think he used to be a professional athlete, and we just sat and talked for 30-40 minutes, just had a good conversation. So it's like, who are we to judge what someone has to offer based on looking at them from a physical appearance, and from what their station of life is? Because now I know people look at me differently, because my station of life is completely different from what it used to be, and it's quite beautiful. It's quite beautiful. The only thing that I don't like is where my finances are. That's it. Everything else is love. Everything else is love. And what you come to find out is you don't need as much as you think you need. You don't. But judgment, and I was just thinking about that, and I'm like, man, I used to really be bad with that myself, and I look back and I'm like, wow, God will really bring you to a place and bring you to an understanding. This place has really been set up for us not to really understand each other and who we are as people, as being connected, as just being human, decent, and honest with one another. And it's like I look at people and they working like the overnight job or work. Most people are working like a job during the day, and their Uber. People are like really hustling to make money, like hustling. Like, when do you have time to have a life? When do you have time to yourself? And for those who work a lot, and even for those, just period. And people get away on the weekend and stuff like that, and some people love what they do. Like, I love what I do. I love sitting, talking, and teaching, and I know where it's going. I've seen it. So that's why I really don't trip about my station in life presently. I know where I'm going, and that's a blessing to me to know. It's like I'm like, yeah, I know where I am right now. And it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place. It's a place where I'm awakened. It's a place where I'm free in the mind and the heart. It's a place where I truly sat down and I did the work and I fixed me. And it's always a continuous process. But where I am right now and where I used to be. Most of the people that I have known for years, and if I sit down and they see this side of me, they don't know me. Most of my family don't know me because I've always been such an introvert. And this side of me was a side that was always really hidden. This was not something that I was free to express because there was always such a, stigma behind it, and being perceived differently and looked at differently. So I kept my mouth shut because I wanted to fit in and have friends and have a life and be joyful. And what I found out is I did have people in my life, but it was a superficial life. It wasn't, and not that everybody was superficial, because they weren't, because I was at a different place. And it was cool, and I had fun, and it was hanging and kicking it with people, but it was not all the way true. It wasn't all the way real. And bringing up a song again, I was listening to a young man, he was singing a song, and he was like, just hanging out. He's an introvert, and his, ways come off indifferent, and he's just weird, but he ain't indifferent. And that's kind of how I would come off, like weird and just different. And so, and when you weird and different, and people always, I never really ever really had friends. I've always been a loner. If I had a friend, I had like one or two like good friends at a time, and that was it. And I never understood. I'm like, man, I'm such a good person. Well, let me improve this, and let me improve my social skills and my communication skills, because that seems to be a real big issue. I don't know how to communicate too well, and I'm communicating and I'm so aggressive in my communication because I'm so passionate. But you cannot be so forceful on people. If they don't want to hear it, they don't want to hear it. And I was just real forceful because I'm just trying to help you, and that's wrong, and I would be right. But you're talking to another divine being. And so that's what I mean by, and that was me in my emotionally imbalanced state of being. That's where I was at that time. And so, and I always had the best advice. People were like, man, you got the best advice, but you be up in here complaining about your life. You need to use your own advice. And I didn't get that. Like, man, I do have the best advice, but turn around, look, my stuff sucks. And I'm like, so why am I able to give all this excellent advice, and yet my own world really is not what I want it to be? And now we're off judgment. Now we're off into something else. And it came to point, I say, well, let me try and figure out what it is about me that why I can't keep friends, why people don't be around me, what is going on. I never understood it, and I always wanted to be in love. Always wanted to be in love. Just love. I just want to be in love. I just want to have this one person to myself. That's all I want. Blah, blah, blah. And that's all I want. And that's still all I want. Just one person that understands my little weird ass. That's it. But what it was and why people never really gravitated towards me or never really liked me, one, because again, my social skills, my communication skills were not the best, and two, I was an empath and didn't know I was an empath. And really what that is, you are essentially a mirror for people. And it wasn't that strong. And as I started to develop it and it started getting stronger over the years, it really got strong in recent years. And so like when I started my spiritual journey, it was like flatline. It was done. But what it is, you're a mirror. And what that mirror does, like I would never understand, like I've always been nice to this person, I've always been courteous to this person, and I would say that about so many people, like why am I having such a hard time with people being around me? People had a hard time being around me because when they would get around me, they would get an attitude or get angry with me, or just it was something about me they didn't like. And what it is when you're an empath, you're a mirror. So the person's reflection of whatever it is that's going on inside of them that they're not dealing with, it'll come up. They'll see it in me, and they'll take that energy and direct it towards me, not realizing that it's really them. There is something that they're seeing in themselves through me, and they don't like it. I was like baffled, like what the is wrong? So for so many years, I thought something was wrong with me, and why can't I have anybody in my life? I was always rejected, and I just couldn't figure it out for nothing. And so since I was rejected so much, and I was always looking for love, when I did find relationships, I would cling to them. So like I always said, I would overgive, overextend, overdo, not realizing what was going on with me and why. This has been going on since I was a child. And so now I look at all the healing work I've done on myself. Now I have to go back and work on all three of my children. I think it's just so vitally important for everyone to learn things in such a different way. So it can just be across the board a healing process collectively. Things have to be done differently. They have to. Knowing what I know about this world, about who we really are, and how we're really living, is so damaging. It is so damaging. And the only way to fix the issues is starting with healing. We have to heal. And if we're not willing to deal with our wounds, what's going on will continue to go on in the world where there's so much. Well, I take that back. That's not going to continue to go on. There's always going to be a segment of the population for a while until we get further along. But over the next few years, it's going to be different. It's going to be different. If you think about it, each decade has really been different. I think back on the 70s and how we were in the 70s. I think back on life in the 80s and how different it was in the 80s. I know for 70 babies, it was very, traditional, fun-loving kids playing kickball. And then we got to the 80s and we got to pop and we got hip-hop and gangster rap, and nobody ever heard of that. That was new. And then it came out with cell phones. And then we got to the 90s, and then it was a big technology boom. And each decade, it was something different, and we always lived differently. Now we're at a point where we're going into 2020, and everything has become so fast-paced, and everybody's going after this bag, and people are starting to say, well, and people are still, that's real heavy. That's there. That's going to be there for a while until people decide they want to do something different, and it's a choice. This awakening process is really for everyone, but everyone is going to do it at the correct time in their life. If it wasn't the correct time for me to wake up when I was in my 20s, I wish I would have. I wish I, would have waken up earlier, where I didn't have to go through so much. But I know I went through everything that I went through because it was a need, because that was the way that it helped wake me up. That was the only way that I was going to be awakened, is through my journey. And each thing that I went through, each life experience that I experienced, is all connected to right now. I can look back and just connect the dots easily, that led me all the way to where I am right now. And if somebody had told me 11 years ago that I would be where I am right now, so heavily spiritually connected and being able to communicate like that, and being able to go in and out of timelines. Who can do some stuff like that? It's whoever even heard of stuff like that. I only heard of stuff like that on television. And art imitates life. And I can look back and been telling you what's going on, telling you who you are, telling you what you can do, and that's entertainment. Pfft, nope. Art imitates life. But I didn't talk about a couple different things, but started out with judgment. So just don't judge. Don't judge a book by its cover, people. you have no idea what a person is truly like until you get to know them. You can look at them from the outside all you want, you'll never know them. I know for me as a blogger, and I come on and I sit and I talk about my life, I only share so much, and it seems like I'm sharing a lot, and I'm really not. I'm really not sharing a lot, and I'm sharing just very little. And
Do they have food?
sorry about that. That was my baby. I fed them already. I fed them twice already, so they're good for this morning. Kittens. She's worried about the kittens because they always bum rush her. And let me tell you about these kittens. They ain't nothing like dogs, and I done bit off more than I can chew. They are off the chain. I cannot do nothing with these bad butt kittens, and I'm gonna need what's that man Caesar, the dog whisperer? Anyway, but I forgot what I was saying. But yeah, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge a book by its cover, and really start investigating yourself and really analyzing it. If you want to, if that's something that you're interested in. But this world really is changing, and it's just a new world. It's a new world. It's a whole new world for me. It's a whole new world for me. A happy one. I still have challenges with some personal stuff, but I really don't let it challenge me. Try my best not to, but hold your peace. Let the Lord fight your battles, and I didn't held my peace for a long time. And the Lord would tell me, hold your peace. And I'm like, I've been holding my peace for a long time. How much longer I got to hold my peace? Hold your peace. Do this, do this, do that. Hold your peace. Do this, do that. Now I can't shut up. Oh, but what I was saying is, I share a lot. It seems like I share a lot about my life, and I share different experiences. I only share what I know is a teaching tool, but there is so much more to me. I only share what I need to share, and I tell what I need to tell, and I keep moving. I don't show it all. There's a purpose to everything I do. Everything. Is there a purpose to everything you do? Should be. And purpose and flow go hand in hand, and sometimes you just need to flow. Makes things easy. Connecting the dots. Organized chaos. So real. People say chaos all the time. It ain't chaos. It's organized. It looks like it's not organized. It looks like there's no control. It's a whole bunch of control going on from the divine. Always has been. Have a good day, guys. Love you. Be blessed. Stay happy. Life is what you make it, and you can make it into whatever you want it to be. Have a good day.